Our history, our culture, our contribution, our veterans are not in the history books.
Every community can create a research center, a community center where these conversations are happening and where people can go and access knowledge.
I'm very pleased and happy to be able to discuss and to share my story that I have here with the Chicano Research Center.
Welcome to the Chicano Research Center in Stockton, California, a place where the rich tapestry of Chicano history, culture, and activism is preserved and celebrated. This sanctuary of knowledge and culture stands as a testament to the rich heritage and enduring spirit of the Chicano community.
My name is Richard Soto, and I am the founder of the Chicano Research Center in downtown Stockton.
My name is Dr. Beto Gutierrez. I'm a professor of Chicano Studies at San Joaquin Delta College.
My name is Mercedes Silveria-Gouveia. I live in Tracy, California. I'm a retired educator.
I'm Theresa Sicaeros. I'm from Stockton, California.
Our history, our culture, our contribution, our veterans are not in the history books. Demas came earlier, Rick Demas, who was a Vietnam veteran, and now he's in a care facility, living because he can't be alone, and he has donated a lot of his stuff to us. And I'm a Vietnam veteran, and one of the things that I want to do in the future is highlight more of what our veterans has done. And where he's living, there's a lot of there's some because there are not a whole lot left. There's a few Korean veterans and other Vietnam veterans, and they want to read about the Vietnam War and Hispanics. And so he came this morning and he borrowed some books so that he can take to those guys to read.
It'll impact the community because when you walk in here, you're just totally awed. I can't explain how I feel. I even get chills. I am not kidding. I get chills when I walk in here. And I've been doing this for 8 years. I do not know every single material that's in here because there's just so much. It's just so much.
And one of the things that occurred in my mind is why? Why do they not like us? Because there were little things like I was a distance runner. I was a miler for Tracy High School, and I was the fastest in the area. And so by being the fastest, I'm supposed to get the inside lane when we race. And the starter always put me on the outside, and I told him, I said, hey, I'm the fastest, man. I'm supposed to be on the inside. He says, no, you go on the outside. Okay, I says, I'm gonna beat him anyway. And I did, but I always wondered, like, why did he not follow the procedure? Why did he have to try to give these white kids an opportunity, and take where I'm supposed to have been? And so that was one thing, growing up with. And then, why do we have to live on South Side? Why couldn't we live somewhere else? So these were all things.
The Research Center is one of the most important places that we know in California. From the very beginning, Richard Soto, which we consider our friend, and we admire his work. I really support every day, every minute of the time that he puts in making this center possible. It's meaningful not only for the Latino community, but for any education institution in California and the United States.
As I started collecting literature on the Mexican Revolution, I would go through it, thinking for sure I'm going to run into my grandfather's name, and I never did. And through Mercy, whose son was married to Pancho Villa's granddaughter, I met Pancho Villa's grandson, Raul Navavilla, and we became good friends. And one time, Pancho Villa had attacked Columbus, New Mexico. They sent Pershing after him, and he never even saw him. And so they reenact that every year between Columbus and then right across the border is Palomas, Mexico. And he invited me to go with him to this cabalcaba. And so I went with him, and I met this young lady named Cindy Medina. And Cindy is from Austin, Texas, but she's doing research on Pancho Villa and his family. And so she's in Parral right now, and she called me to tell me that she was there and this is what she's doing. And I told her, I said, if you find any books, hook me up, because I'm trying to find my grandfather and establish the fact that, yes, he was a Dorado. So a couple of days go by, and 2 Mondays ago, she calls me. She says, I found this book. It's called Un Villa Más, one more Villa, Villista. And she says, there's this Rafael Ponce Munoz from Jimenez, Chihuahua, Mexico. That's my grandfather. So 80 years later, I finally find the proof that he actually was a Dorado of Pancho Villa. And so to me, that was like real significant. I called up my cousin who was doing the family tree, and that was there. So from the personal point of view, and going back and dealing with why they disliked us, I also last month was reading another book on the history of Texas, and I found where they specifically said why. And what had happened is that when the settlers first came to Texas, Mexico gave them land and gave them permission to stay there if they became Catholic, learned Spanish, and pledged an allegiance to Mexico. And everybody was happy. But when the railroad came and the East Coast people opened up Texas, these new people came and they had no interest in becoming Catholic. They had no interest in learning Spanish, and they didn't want anything to do with Mexico or Mexicans. They hated them. They just wanted the land. And so they started to aggressively pursue separating Mexican colonizers from their territory, and that included the Texas Rangers. So I think that's where a lot of the hatred started, because then you had years where there was this conflict between settlers and Mexicans, and many of them were dispossessed of their property. And then when the United States aggressively attacked Mexico by making up a fake excuse, then they went to war with Mexico, and then they got the Southwest. That was some additional stuff that happened. So anyway, it's a lot of questions are for me are being answered.
Given the socio-political discussions that we're having right now in society, in our country, the Chicano Research Center has the potential of having a huge impact on the local, regional Chicano community, immigrant community, because of the resources that it has here, right? With schools, they lack resources oftentimes, and so these are the resources that exist right here. And so it has the potential of being able to invite people from different regions, invite teachers, bringing their students, doing field trips here, exposing them to all of this rich research. A lot of the images that they're gonna see here, they've never seen before, because a lot of the images that are provided in schools are oftentimes very commercialized. There's like that one image of Cesar Chavez, that one image that we see of Frida Kahlo, the one image that we see of Martin Luther King Jr., And beyond those very commercialized images, the kids really don't get to see other images. And so when they come in here and they see the pictures in these books, or they see, for the little ones, or they see different texts from different eras, they can visualize themselves within history, outside of whatever commercialized history they're receiving right now in class.
I enjoy seeing the pictures that he has. Most of them are authentic. They are gifts that Cesar gave him also, or Dolores Huerta gave him. From Pancho Villa, he researches everywhere he goes to find authentic coins, pictures, sombreros, or anything from Pancho Villa.
We're going against the odds, okay? The Mexican Revolution in 1910 was waged to free the slaves that were working on large haciendas that pretty much had been run by Spaniards. There's criollos, which are Spaniards that were Spanish mother, Spanish father, but born in Mexico. There's peninsulares, which are Spanish mother, Spanish father, but they were born in Spain. The peninsulares put themselves above criollos because they were born in the mother country. And so they were holding all the positions of politics, and the criollos said no, and so they went to war with them.
The Chicano Research Center has incredible opportunities to be able to create, invite the community and create events that, one, celebrate the history, preserve a lot of our culture, and then of course it has the resources for the community to be able to research and understand what it is that they're celebrating.
When you walk through the doors of the Chicano Research Center, the preservation is there, in art, in books, in music, in artifacts, in archival materials that have been collected, and I think mostly it's just everything that's in here. It's the preservation. So, and like I said, as you walk through those doors, you can just feel it.
One of the other things was that my father was killed in 1947 when I was 3 years old. So we used to go with my mother's parents. My grandparents lived in Tracy, and we spent a lot of time there. And my grandfather, Rafael Ponce Munoz, had a picture in the front room of the house. He had two pictures of him with his horse, with his 30-30 rifle, and dressed like a Mexican revolutionary, kind of like that picture over there. And we were told that my grandfather was a dorado of Pancho Villa. That was one of his golden boys. They were his bodyguards, but they were also his shock troop that would charge the federales. But we never had any proof. And as I started collecting literature on the Mexican Revolution, I would go through it, thinking for sure I'm going to run into my grandfather's name, and I never did. And through Mercy, whose son was married to Pancho Villa's granddaughter, I met Pancho Villa's grandson, Raul Nava Villa, and we became good friends. And one time, Pancho Villa had attacked Columbus, New Mexico. They sent Pershing after him, and he never even saw him. And so they reenact that every year between Columbus and then right across the border is Palomas, Mexico. And he invited me to go with him to this cabalcaba. And so I went with him, and I met this young lady named Cindy Medina. And Cindy is from Austin, Texas, but she's doing research on Pancho Villa and his family. And so she's in Parral right now, and she called me to tell me that she was there and this is what she's doing. And I told her, I said, if you find any books, hook me up, because I'm trying to find my grandfather and establish the fact that yes, he was a Dorado. So a couple of days go by, and 2 Mondays ago, she calls me. She says, I found this book. It's called Un Villa Más, one more Villa, Villista. And she says, there's this Rafael Ponce Munoz from Jimenez, Chihuahua, Mexico. That's my grandfather. So 80 years later, I finally find the proof that he actually was a Dorado of Pancho Villa.
What makes this research center important is that this collection exists. It's not attached to any research center, any research center at a university. And so it is a private collection that is now part of a nonprofit. But it makes it extremely important because, again, it sends a message that we do read, we can read, we will read when given the opportunity. And I think that parents need to see this as well, because I think it should encourage parents to buy books for their children. It could encourage parents to bring text into the house in a different way, to spend time, family time, free time in a different way as well. But on a macro scale, the collection is incredible. When I walk by here, I mean, he has records, there's magazines, there's books in Spanish and English. The record collection, which I'd never seen before, is amazing. It's amazing to see so many different records, music that a lot of people don't know it exists. Next to this, outside of this, UCLA has like a huge music collection in their research center. And so I was really surprised to see what he's been able to collect here.
When I was teaching Chicano history at adult school, I had several occasions where I would teach something like I was talking about the Zoot Suit riots in Los Angeles in the 1940s. And I was telling the kids how the military came in and they were beating up these guys because they were dressed differently. And I said they called them Zoot Suits and Pachucos. And the kids went home and they told their parents what they were studying. And the parents said, I was one of those. And the kids never knew anything about it. And on another occasion, I had a kid that I was teaching about the Bracero program, the farm laborers that came from Mexico during World War II. And at the end of class, the kid says, Mr. Soto, can you give me a ride home? My mother can't come and pick me up. I said, sure. So I took him home, and he says, oh, my grandfather's here. That's his car. He says, come on in and meet him. So I said, okay. So I went inside and I met the grandfather, and he said, well, what did you guys learn today? And the kid says, well, Grandpa, we learned about the Bracero program. And the grandfather says, I was a Bracero. And the mother goes, I never knew that. And of course the kid didn't know either. And he says, yeah. And I said, I showed him a movie. And the grandfather said, well, can we borrow that movie? And they stayed up all night looking at the movie and then talking about Grandpa's experience as a Bracero. Something that for 40 years had not been talked about or mentioned in the family because of the father. I don't know why he didn't tell the kids that he was a Bracero. And that's how he got here into this country.
The Chicano Research Center can support students in their research, in their academic journey, by creating the space and inviting them to come and explore the research, having access to these books. If you live in Northern California, I don't know here what other resources exist outside of this center. right? But for the local students, this is a gem. This is a gold mine. Like, they have something here that does not exist within the community anywhere else in this country. And so if you're a high school student and you need to work on a research paper, like, this is the great place to come and explore.
I admire the collections of books on Cesar Chavez, on Pancho Villa, on Joaquin Murrieta, and many, many other women also that he researches. Caló, for example, in culture, poetry, you name it. He's so well-rounded. He's a walking encyclopedia himself. And we admire his work, and we support him. My husband and I support him as much as we can. We try to promote it to high schools, to the colleges throughout the county and California, friends. Take pictures and send it to them, and keep asking, have you visited the research center? If you haven't, you need to come and see it. You will be amazed. This is always a work in progress. The amazing thing is that he has become not only an educator himself, a retired counselor, he's a carpenter, he's an electrician, he's a plumber.
You know, when I went to San Francisco to work on my counseling credential, the Lau versus Nichols decision had just been, they had just been victorious and won, and now they needed to get into the implementation stage. Well, when I worked on my first master's degree at Sacramento, I took a lot of classes on bilingual education. So when I got to San Francisco and they saw what my resume was, they go, we're putting you on the Lau Nichols task force because you know something about bilingual education. So, okay, so we did that. Okay, I got all the 5 credits in a master's degree in counseling, but I didn't finish the 5 credits because I wanted to start working on learning disabilities, because they were labeling Hispanic kids as mentally retarded. If they gave you a test and you didn't score high, well, they gave the kids tests in English, and so they scored real low, so they labeled them mentally retarded. So I wanted to understand special needs kids so I could combat that. So then while I was there, I started driving to Tracy on Friday nights and working with the kids in the high school. And then one day they called me and they said, hey, one of the counselors quit. Says, you need to apply. Well, they were having riots at Tracy High because says Mercy's friend Cesar Chavez was coming in, and so the farmers and the Chicano kids were fighting. So I had worked at riot schools in Sacramento. I had worked at riot schools in Daly City, and now I was working in riot schools in Tracy. So even though I didn't have, I don't know, something else, I had that. It took me 5 years to put an end to that.
The Chicano Research Center can definitely collaborate with local institutions of higher learning by inviting professors to come and maybe host a workshop here, host a book reading, host a book signing. They can encourage their students to come conduct research here, and do cross discussions from different community colleges, inviting students from different community colleges to come here and discuss a topic. And so it could be, again, the hub of discourse. It could play that role. Generally speaking, students from the local community colleges don't visit each other's campuses, but a community center where it's neutral territory, right? We can come and have a conversation here and hash out some of our differences or work on building based on our similarities.
The students, when they come into the center and they see the materials that are here, and they have nowhere else to go and see the amount of materials that are here, and then they learn about their culture, their heritage, and the Chicano movement itself, and then they feel almost, I think they feel proud because they have no idea that that generation during the Chicano movement, we impacted them so much. And with all the materials being here and they see it and feel it and look at it and the art, it becomes live, and it helps them out to feel proud.
Our identity is attached to what we see and what we're told. I think that I, as a person, it took a while for me to understand that I'm more than just a man or a Mexican man, that I could also be educated, that I could also give back to the community, that I could also be a teacher, a mentor, and a resource. And so I think that this particular collection, this resource center, right, it allows people to come in here and dream and envision themselves in more ways than one.
Last month, was reading another book on the history of Texas, and I found where they specifically said why. And what had happened is that when the settlers first came to Texas, Mexico gave them land and gave them permission to stay there if they became Catholic, learned Spanish, and pledged an allegiance to Mexico. And everybody was happy. But when the railroad came and the East Coast people opened up Texas, these new people came and they had no interest in becoming Catholic. They had no interest in learning Spanish, and they didn't want anything to do with Mexico or Mexicans. They hated them. They just wanted the land. And so they started to aggressively pursue separating Mexican colonizers from their territory, and that included the Texas Rangers. So I think that's where a lot of the hatred started, because then you had years where there was this conflict between settlers and Mexicans, and many of them were dispossessed of their property. And then when the United States aggressively attacked Mexico by making up a fake excuse, then they went to war with Mexico, and then they got the Southwest. That was some additional stuff that happened. So anyway, it's a lot of questions are for me are being answered. Like you go somewhere, and you're playing Mexican music. Hey man, don't play that music. I don't understand it. Well, you know what? I'm not playing it for you. I'm playing it for me. I understand it. You want to learn it? Take a Spanish class. So why are Mexicans told don't speak Spanish, and then we get to the senior year and we're applying to a college and they say, well, you need 3 years of Spanish. Well, they told me to get rid of it. And another with the culture, another issue is these kids go to school, little kids, and I don't know how many little kids I talk to, and they go, no, I don't want to speak Spanish. I don't want it. I says, but you can learn it. It's easy. No, I don't want it. And they're picking up the bad experience that they've had in the school system, So we have a free guitar class here on Wednesday nights, and the teacher, Jose Renaga, who was on stage with Selena in Texas, and he's another community person who wants to give back, and most people will charge him for use of a building. We don't charge him. I don't charge him. I says, no, you're bringing people in, they're seeing the library, and they can see the cancioneros, which are songbooks, and I've had some of the people want to borrow the songbook so that they could go home and look up the music and the words to it. Around early 1960s is when Chicanos started going to college in numbers, and at first we only went to 2-year colleges, and as we got a little braver and confident, we started going to 4-year colleges. So now we were earning AA degrees, BA degrees, and then we moved up and went to master's degrees, and then like 10, 15 years later when they moved up, and started getting PhDs, and now there's hella PhDs out there, and I'm sure you'll find the same experience, with the black community, and so one of the things that and just keeping my eyes open is I noticed that the number of books that were coming out also coincided with our steps moving up in the educational system and writing theses, which were then modified and came out as books. And so we started getting more books. Well, I was there when this was happening, and I bought those books. And so like Dr. Gutierrez, I had a lady call from Texas. She wanted some literature because she was doing her PhD, and she needed to identify her sources, but she couldn't find a book. And eventually she heard about us, and she called me, and I said, yeah, we got the book. We got it. She came out.
We are rarely given that opportunity to explore, even at home. At home, our parents, our dad will tell us, this is who you are, this is what you're going to be, right? No differently than our college counselors. This is who you are, this is what you're going to be. And so really, it's up to us to envision ourselves in a different way, and we have the opportunity to remake ourselves and to re-envision ourselves. And coming into a place like this with such rich history, it gives us that opportunity that we can be leaders, we can be spokespeople, we can be teachers, we can be educators, that we don't just have to be construction workers or field workers or athletes, that we could be a lot of other things.
We have a lot of records. There's a restaurant that just opened around the corner, Mexico Lindo, and one of the first things the lady did was borrow a movie we had on Pedro Infante. And she goes, oh, I love Pedro Infante. So people need a place to go. If Barnes & Noble's not going to have our literature, we do. If they're not going to have our movies, we do. And people can come here and they can check stuff out, take it home, and like Mercy said, with popcorn and a blanket, they can watch it on TV.
I think that the Research Center can play a big role in advocating for the community. Everything from opening at stores and creating a space where people can come and meet and have conversations, to a place where people can come and have debates, healthy debates. People can come and explore ideas and at the same time find solutions to some of these issues, right? Right now, we're going through some very tumultuous times politically. This would be a great place for people to come and have those discussions, have those debates, because what we see on TV is not always 100% factual. There might be a slither of truth that gets blown up to be something, to be a fact. And so this is a place that has the potential of being the hub of discussion that could lead to change on a real local level as well as regional, and potentially encourage people to run and consider positions at a national level.
I had a real bad experience in Vietnam. Okay, I was part of a unique surgical unit that people with a certain expertise were drawn from throughout the country and sent like a MASH unit to Vietnam. In order to get surgical training, you had to have scored at a certain level on the ASVAB test. Otherwise, you wouldn't get it. We have to know this. We have to know this. When we encounter a discriminatory experience, we have to be able to deal with that right then and there. Put those people in check, be able to cite resources, and get it over with. We're engaged in the community to the extent that we do public speaking. So I made presentations at Turlock for like 20 some odd years. Every year I was a regular presenter on Mexican Chicano history. And I was also a regular presenter at Modesto. And Modesto Junior College gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award for all the presentations that I had done at their campus. And they wanted me to be the speaker at their Hispanic graduation, which I did. And I told them, this Lifetime Achievement Award is premature because I'm not done doing. I'm still doing things. And then I've done, LULAC has a youth conference every year with Delta College. And I've done, we just did one last week at Delta College.
The center, we go to different schools, grade schools, universities, colleges, and share Richard's story, and so that they're aware of what is here.
Like Dr. Gutierrez, I think anybody that's teaching ethnic studies or Chicano studies should include as a requirement that they make one visit to the Chicano Research Center and if possible, utilize the resources that we have here. I think Dr. Gutierrez touched on one of them. One is to create a database of what we have, so that when someone comes in, or even if they go online, they can look at what we have for each area. Okay, so instead of someone coming in and saying, I'm looking at the Cristero Rebellion, what do you have? Okay, they just have to go to page such and such, and it has a list of everything. Now that list would include books, magazines, and music that we have on that area. There's we get different people with different education levels, and as well as language abilities, and so there's a need for us to create presentations at different grade levels.
I truly believe that the community can help and continue to help as they have by donating materials that are of such importance. I do believe that they can help by coming here and volunteering when they have time, or if they're students, to come and get, I want to say, volunteering hours for their educational purpose. And they can come and help label, organize, clean, to preserve everything that is here, of such importance.
I also want to put in the window, I want to build some small display cases and alter the front window on a regular basis, and have pictures, artifacts, literature.
And this has taught me that we are women that can just do and pursue an education and just provide for our families and teach our next generations to be proud of who they are and to become something great in this world. Yeah.
We're not forcing a history or an identity on them. All we're doing is contributing to something that has been dormant for a long time, or they haven't had access to, and now they do.
I think that every community needs a center of some sort where the local community can go and have these discussions, have access to some knowledge or all knowledge.
He's one man that does a little bit of everything. And that's what this Research Center is so valuable. It's so valuable for the Latino community, for the San Joaquin County, California, and many people that would like to learn and leave a legacy. That's one thing that I admire. His legacy will live forever.
The one thing that I want to say is that this experience that I've had for the last 8 years volunteering here for the Chicano Research Center makes me very proud. That's all.